All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Tuesday edition of our GenAI News Brief. I am here with the wonderful analysts from GAI Insights, and we will go through 6 or 7 news stories today, chat about them, let you know whether it's important for you to key in on. We have our special guest all week, Mr. Christopher Brock. Thank you for joining us. And we are also going to play our theme songs this week and see if anybody is amenable to having them take place all the time. Maybe we'll have a little intro. We're going to get a little professional. We're going to start off with the country pop version that we created, and we will try some different genres throughout the week. We're using this as a preview of the Udio tool, and this took all of 5 minutes, by the way, to create. So let's see what you think of this one. I previewed this for a few of you guys yesterday. Hopefully the sound works today. Just give me a little wave if it's not working.
GAI Insights put you in the know. Is it a true breakthrough or just for show? Listen, every morning we will tell you so. Here's the E, here's the I, here's the EIO. Sharing AI insights that you need to know. From essential to important to optional. GAI Insights rates the news for you.
All right, that one wasn't bad.
I love it. It's so bad.
Based on your perspective.
All right.
All right. On that happy note, Dave, we'll get started. We have some great articles today, starting with the Stanford University's 7th annual report on the state of AI. Quite lengthy, but an amazing article for all of us to read. So John will give us a little summary on that. And then we have several product announcements or beta announcements. Rika announced a couple of new multimodal language models. Cohere introduced something that they're putting in beta, a new embedding model. Adobe is introducing some new video capabilities and integration, possibly with Sora. Again, these are beta announcements. Then we're going to move on to OpenAI and ChatGPT and what is the CEO there doing and trying to get more enterprise clients and increase their revenue, possible competition with Microsoft. So the saga and drama continues with that company. And then a topic that I really like, which is the testing, right? What's going to happen in that whole area of how do we test performance and security of these models? You know, as we all know, we don't have yet a body that kind of controls that. And then we'll wrap up with some developments from Arena Labs on gaming. So quite a bit of things today. So the music got us started with the right energy. So let's get started, Ankash, with the first article. And the first one being the Stanford report.
Okay, I was going to say, I think Ankash dropped.
Yes, so I think he's having trouble with his network this morning.
Yeah, so just let me know the first article, and I have them all pulled up.
Here he comes back. Wait a second.
Oh, he's back.
Akash, can you hear us? How's the network?
Yes.
All right.
The music was just too powerful.
I blew him away.
All
right, I'm going to share my screen so we don't lose too much more time here.
Sounds
and Ankaj, once you're set up again. Oh, he's set up. Okay, great. Here we go.
Okay, so the first one that we have today is the 2024 AI Index report. So it's a big report, around 500 pages, but there are some top takeaways from this one.
All right, John, please help us kick this one off.
Sure. In the spirit of full disclosure, I've only read the summary myself, but I would call it essential. Let's just get some highlights from the top 10 things. First of all, there's some, finally, kind of put to bed the idea that AI does beat humans on some tasks, but not all. And also AI helps drive improvements in science and research, very much like the Ray Kurzweil law of accelerating returns, where technology increases knowledge, knowledge increases technology. The frontier models are getting really expensive. The US is in the lead. and compared to China and the EU and the EU and UK. There's industry is leading over academia. Industry's pumped out over 50 models, 51 different models. Academia about a dozen, but there's over 20 that were industry academia collaboration. So just an enormous amount of new models out there. Generative AI continues to skyrocket in terms of investing, and the number of AI regulations is going up, and people around the world are both cognizant of and nervous about what AI can do. So all very important, well documented in this annual report. Interesting. The only commercial person on the team here is from J.P. Morgan Chase, which I thought was very interesting. Other than that, you've got basically academics and scientists. So there you have it. Worthwhile. I would call it essential.
Thank you, John. Great overview. I mean, I think we all agree that it's essential, but any other comments from the team as far as the key findings that you'd like to add?
Yeah, I mean, none of them are anything earth-shattering that we haven't talked about, but the amount of data in this report that comes out every year is like tremendous. And what happens is they cull that data from a bunch of different companies. So if you flip open the actual PDF, you'll see all the contributors. You'll see Accenture, McKinsey, a bunch of other companies. I recall being part of the crew that used to send the data over to these folks when I was at McKinsey. So just be mindful of where it's coming from, right? It's not always like academic researchers digging in, but
Yes.
it's still very valuable. I refer to this constantly throughout the year for stats. And I think for the AI leader, obviously we don't expect you to read it all, but good to have these stats in your back pocket for when you're trying to justify expenses or create presentations and just for general awareness. So definitely essential, I think, to keep this one bookmarked on your browser.
Yes, and I just want to once again give my opposition to the idea that we're not asking you to read it all. We are asking you to read it all. Okay.
Look, I can't say I haven't read this thing.
Billionaires read. Okay.
Yeah.
Good luck with that.
I'm asking. I'm not necessarily going to get. It's up to the person.
I agree. I'm 100% behind you. I'm just realistic.
All right. Well, thank you for that. We will mark that as essential, and we will quiz you a week from now to make sure that you have read it. All right. Let's go on to the next article. Please, Ankaj.
Okay. Yeah, thanks, Tanya. So the next one is a new frontier class multimodal language model from Reka. It's titled Reka Core and challenging Claude Opus on performance.
All right, we're having technical
difficulties. We're cutting out a little bit with Ankaj connection, but Adam, why don't you kick us off with this article, as we were just talking before?
Yeah, sure.
How things have changed so quickly.
Good morning, everyone. Yeah, that's a new player for me. It's in some way, it would be only that we're probably going to new coming to market that are competitive at this level. Here we are, almost a year and a half after GPT-4 came out. But in some ways, I feel like it's important to note because it does have 3 tiers to it. The one that competes with like a GPT-4, all the way down that one that actually outperforms at the 7 billion model size. So it's probably worth an important to note that there is a new kid on the block that's performing at the level of some of the big names out there that we've seen to date.
It's true. I won't argue too hard with it, other than to say that one of the models isn't even out yet. This is a fairly unknown company to most of the world. So, and we're going to get to some articles about measurement and how the measurements are not all that great a comparison anyway. So it's hard for me to get super excited about yet another AI company with a lot of money generating yet another few models that are competitive, quote unquote, with the larger models. That's true. It's all true. I just don't know how important that is for a busy AI leader to know.
And to your point, Tim, they could have deliberately developed it just to perform well on these metrics, right?
Now we have a whole educational system designed that way, don't we?
Yeah.
Standardized testing, yes.
Yeah,
I was actually borderline important on this one, and the reason actually comes off of what we just looked at in the AI index in terms of key takeaways, which is, there's not a lot of models coming out of Asia, right? China has 15. We've seen some come out of South Korea, sporadic other places in Asia, and this is made up of founders who come from all the big names like Google, DeepMind, and Brain. And yes, I mean, you know how I feel about the benchmarks. I did my comic on it this week, actually, in my frustration. But the fact that this one is going to be available over there, I mean, I know we're primarily facing the US audience, but to me, that was the only reason why I found it was important. And actually, CB Insights ranks this company number 5 in terms of value per employee, because apparently there's only 7 people that that work at this company, and the company last valuation was $300 million. So I mean, it's not a small player in terms of the world. So I would argue for important.
Yeah, I'd argue for important. I don't know if you had, I wasn't familiar with the company, so I started poking around a little bit. There's a lovely little video on X that shows the product, and it's really pretty impressive. I'd give it an important. I guess they're ex-DeepMind Googlers that are behind this, right?
Chris, any topics there? You sort of disappeared a little bit.
Oh, no, I think it's important. I love the idea of multimodal models. I think text models alone, in my opinion, may have hit some type of plateau, and it's going to be sort of a law of diminishing returns. So seeing any multimodal model that's offered, I think is a great thing. I think it's important for the industry. It might be optional to read if you are a busy CEO in the world and just trying to figure out your day-to-day business. But I'm very excited for any new multimodal model that has a couple $100 million behind it, because that's the minimum, I think, of what you need to even try to compete or start. So it's very great to see that technology investment happening in Asia.
Excellent. All right, so we're going to go with important on this one. Seems like everybody feels like it's important to consider as a new model. So let's move on to here.
Yeah, just Chris, just so you know, it has the weirdest effect. Your virtual background, because of the way the light is hitting you, you kind of come in and out like it's
yes.
You're there. You're not.
You're a ghost.
Yeah, I feel like I'm watching Poltergeist here or something.
Yep. Just a quick aside. I've put on the chat for anyone who's playing along at home a link on the Rika AI website. They have a showcase page where you can see Rika's responses in multimodal against both Opus and GPT-4, and certainly from what you see there, it looks pretty impressive, and there's a lot of good examples.
Awesome.
Excellent. Thank you, Adam. All right, let's move on to the next article. On Cohere. Yeah, thank you, Anka.
So this one from Cohere is around their Compass private beta. So this is a new multi-aspect embedding model that they have launched, and this has come on the heels of a recent announcement of re-rank 3 from Cohere.
All right, I had Chris to kick us off on this one, please.
So yeah, this is my second day and second Cohere article. I felt like Aiden Gomez, sort of a cheerleader for him. I love what they do at Cohere. I'm really excited about this because it's a little bit different embedding model than what we know. They're using JSON. So like if you have emails, invoices, receipts, they say that this will keep the data intact in a much better way than traditional RAG model. So it's supposed to be a step elevated above. That's going to be very interesting to see how that will work in the enterprise environments. I think that's an important and critical, even a crucial thing to have enterprise adoption with your real-time data. So I think that this is going to sort of fit in that space. And since Cohere is on their own and not sort of embedded in your Office 365 or your Google for work, Cohere is definitely offering something that I haven't read anyone else close to offering. This isn't a closed beta, so it's not like we can go out and play with it, but I am going to try to get access this week. I think it's an important thing to know. It could even, I would say, essential if it was out of beta and anybody could sign up for it. But I think it's an important.
At the bottom, sorry, Chris, I think at the bottom of the article, they do say if you want to be part of the testing group, sign up.
Exactly right. So I recommend that.
Excellent. So you're giving it a essential or important?
I'm going to give it an important until they're out of beta.
All right. Sounds good. Someone else in the team.
Yeah, I'll argue a little bit. Again, I won't argue too hard because any improvement like this, I think, could be interesting, but the key issue is could be. So we've talked about this before. The reality is that statistical models don't get very far with the common sense world. And what they're trying to do is get a tiny bit closer by embedding a little bit of a knowledge graph inside the embeddings, which I know is a little geeky, but what it really means, they're just trying to keep a little bit more of the semantics of the training model, which is effectively what a RAG architecture, retrieval augmented generation, tries to do as well. But they're building it directly into the foundation model. So that could be great. It could make it a lot easier to use your own data and create a model that is much smarter about your own data. It's just a tiny step, so it's unclear how much difference it will really make in practice. So theory sounds interesting, could be interesting. As Chris pointed out, it's not even fully available yet. So I would probably give it an optional, but I would keep an eye on it, because if it turns out, again, we've been surprised how good these things are, given how little understanding of the world they actually have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would give it an important. I come down where Chris is, because the importance of this, if it does work, the importance of this in the enterprise. Even as you say, we're just using JSON, and a little bit of semantics are getting captured, but that would make a huge, if it has any meaningful hit on performance and making that data more usable, that's just going to be fantastic. And I love the fact that it's independent from the cloud providers.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think that's critical, because if you can't use it behind the firewall, you're not going to get very far, I think.
Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So I know that in the past, if something is not yet in production, we've given it an optional until things are in production. So because of that, I'm kind of leaning towards maybe we do optional, but we say, hey, if this is something of interest to the enterprise, note, stay connected with this, and note that you can also participate in the research.
But Tanya, we can update our embeddings.
Yes. All right. Let's move on to the Adobe article.
Adobe.
Okay. So this one from Adobe, it talks about the Premiere Pro, through which Adobe is getting GenAI video tools, and maybe OpenAI Sora as well.
Okay, Adobe, I had Dave.
Yeah, and Ankash, I don't know if you're able to play the opening video there. It looked like it was dark on your screen, but can kind of see some of the capabilities there. If you scroll up to this one, I'm not sure what's going on with your screen, but anyway, I want to get excited about this one. I'm a huge fan of Adobe's products and use them for my comics and lots of other little design projects that I engage in. But I'm going to go optional for the moment on this one because of the nature of the announcement. If you read this carefully, first of all, it's not available. Second of all, they don't give a date for when it's going to be available. Third, at least this article says that it's not a certainty that they're going to integrate Sora and Pika and other tools and or other models and let you choose from the different models. So what is this announcement? Why are we even talking about it now? I mean, clearly it's kind of they're feeling pressure to share their capability to come because other video tools are available. But I love Adobe, but I'm going optional on this one for the moment.
I was with you, Dave. I felt like, hey, Sora is taking off, so Adobe, let me make a let me put something out there that I'm getting there. I'm going to be as good as them, and if I'm not as good as them, I'm going to integrate. So to me, it's a business move of, hey, don't forget us. We have good tools. The article does also say that they have they have such so many customers too. Like they have to play this very carefully. So
Yeah, I mean, but honestly, too, I think the nature of their product and the nature of the user, I'm not sure it's beneficial to let people choose the model that they use. I think Adobe should make a decision on which one is best and put it in there, or have it in the background and like let it automatically choose whichever one is best for whatever prompt someone puts in. Because the type of user that's going into Adobe products is not a geek who's going to be like, oh, let me try this model, let me try that model. I find it'll actually be harmful to the product more than beneficial if somebody has to kind of manipulate those personally.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
not American. Dude. That's
This is
not
a
American.
40-year-old strategy at least, right? Which is I'm a dominant player in a certain space, and there are entrants threatening me. So I just make an announcement that is within a state boundary of those capabilities, and it just slows everybody down. Oh, they might do it, so I'm going to wait and see. And
Yeah.
they may never deliver on it, which is even they were so brazen as to say, well, we might never do this, but just in case, we're going to slow everything down.
The other thing that I thought was interesting in the article was that content credential labels, right? That they're planning on continuing that, not just for their own content, but if they do connect with third parties, that they would follow that. I think that's an important trend.
Right. Announcements are easy.
Yeah. All right. So we'll go with optional, it sounds like, on that one.
I do want to highlight the fact that what is significant here is the third-party integrations, because they have always been a closed environment where they wouldn't allow that sort of thing to happen. And I think in some ways it's them acknowledging that there is competition out there and that they want to keep their customers and they want to allow them access to those other tools. So it's a bit of a concession, and that's probably the most significant news. It looks super cool. I can't wait to see it, but at the moment, I think I have to agree it's optional.
Good. Thank you. Thank you for the discussion. All right, so let's move on to article. I think we're on number 5, which is the OpenAI article.
Yes. So this one talks about how Sam Altman is pitching ChatGPT Enterprise to large firms, and some of them are Microsoft customers.
All right, John, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, well, Sam Altman, man, I would not want to have to manage Sam Altman. I mean, here the guy he's out pitching Microsoft and everybody else's clients about how they should deal directly with OpenAI and forget Microsoft, and actually making the case that they should pay additional to do this. He's had 3 meetings now with CEOs, 2 in the U.S., 1 in Europe, I believe, and interesting. I don't think it's certainly optional. I think it would make me as an enterprise executive lean more toward Microsoft, because OpenAI, from a relationship standpoint, I just wouldn't trust them, I guess. If they're doing that to their biggest investor, what are they going to do to me? Kind of thing. But that's just personally, I would be, or I might use them to play off against Microsoft and get a better price or something. But optional, interesting, weird dynamic. They say that old Sam is quite the politician. He seems to be spreading his wings in that dimension.
What I found interesting on the article was one of the executives asked, well, why would I pay you? Oh, because you get to work with OpenAI directly.
That's it.
Yeah, he doesn't even really have a good answer for it, right? Because there isn't, basically.
Yeah. David, what do you mean there is no better answer? You get to work with me.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's the way of the world, isn't it? And it's a problem with, we love the innovation and the venture capital ecosystem and all this stuff, but it has real problems. And this is where you see it. And having been one of those who went through the .com explosion in the late 90s, you get these valuations that are insane. I mean, literally insane. Okay. hundreds of times your sales. PEs can't even be measured because they're mostly not profitable. And now you got a problem because investors expect you to figure out a way to grow into that PE. At the end of the day, what's the old saying from Warren Buffett? You know, it's a beauty contest in the short run, but a weighing contest in the long run. So you got to show up with something that justifies $90 billion in market valuation. And $1 billion a year means you're at 90 times sales, which I will tell you with some experience in Wall Street is insane. There are no companies that trade for a long time, especially that large, at 90 times their sales revenue. And so they've got to find ways to use this market valuation to increase their actual PE and revenue and stuff. And I think, you know, people get desperate and they do all sorts of crazy stuff when they're in that situation. And it causes all sorts of problems, as we saw in the late 90s and 2000s. I don't think this is as bad. Maybe it is, we'll find out. But I think there's going to be all sorts of hijinks that get played because of these lofty valuations right now.
That's right. All right, let's keep it moving. We've got 5 minutes and a couple of articles left.
Yep. So we're going to go with optional on the OpenAI, and let's move on to testing, Tim, and then we'll go to the gaming. The gaming is a short article, Dave, so I think we're good.
Yeah, I think this is important, if not essential. This is the Cliff Notes or Spark Notes version of the HAI report that we just from Stanford that we first discussed. In fact, it refers to it here in the article. So I think it's, you know, a quick read and summary of what exactly the problem is, which is there aren't any really good measurements right now. Those that have put together that are out there have been put together very quickly with very little study and background. They're not administered by independent entities, and they fall out of utility, I should say, fairly quickly because the models are advancing so quickly. And so other than that, they're perfect. So I think this is an important read because you need to understand, if you're trying to pick a product, what you can get out of these measurements. It's not that they're completely useless, but they're a lot less useful than I think is generally assumed.
Yep. Thank you, Tim. I'm going to move on with we'll do important. I think we all agree that this is something that is an issue, and we need to stay informed. So let's move on to Arena Labs and the gaming article. Chris, I have you down for that one.
Great. So Arena X, they've launched what they're saying 2 different platforms, their ARC and SAI platform. It's a little bit different than just adding ChatGPT to some NPC players so they can interact. But they've trained on that, and then they've added machine learning over users actually playing games. And they feel that their new model is going to just build that immersion in games. I would consider this sort of optional. It's very neat that AI is starting to be integrated into the gaming world, and they just feel that they have a unique offering in that space.
Excellent. Thank you, Chris. Anyone else has a different ranking for that?
Nope.
All right. So to kind of summarize here, we had 1 essential, the Stanford, when we're going to quiz you next week. We have 2 important and 4 optional. We will send you guys the newsletter with this. Oh, perfect. Thank you so much. Do I have it right? Yeah. Oh, 3 optionals. 3 optionals. Yeah, you're right. 3 optionals, 3 important, and 1 essential. All right. Back to you, Dave and John.
All right. Thank you. Yes. So happy reading, everybody. As always, you can sign up for the newsletter. Hit us up on LinkedIn or YouTube, and you'll see the link very easily accessible for you. That's the 2-minute version of the 30 minutes that we spend here, but we love that you spend these 30 minutes with us as well. And we will see you tomorrow.